Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another podcast. Hare Krishna, Jai Shri Ram to everyone. We are going to talk today about digital addictions and its connection with Dusshera, the Hindu festival. We have with me again my good friend Mark. Welcome back, Mark, to another
Hello, Hare
podcast.
Krishna.
Wonderful. So today we are going to explore this festival of Dusshera and how it's connected with so much history related to Hindu text, Ramayana, and there's so many lessons. Specifically, we're also to talk about how digital addictions are such a real thing today, and what's the connection between Dashera and digital addictions, and we're going to go into that. Yeah.
Yeah, time of year is filled with joyous celebrations, colorful processions, dramatic reenactments of stories, been captivating the hearts and minds for centuries. The epic Ramayana.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for our some of our folks who might be listening to us, not I don't know if everybody is familiar with Ramayana, right? But Ramayana is a lovely, lovely epic. It's a it's one of the deep histories of India, and it talks about Lord Ram conquering Ravan, and really also gives representation of how good can prevail over evil, even though it might take time. And there's so many lessons for our modern day lifestyle, specifically the digital world we are living in with so many gadgets and whatnot, and the impact that it has. And Ramayana has a lot of lessons for all of us from that angle also.
Yeah, the heart of the epic is the story of Lord Rama, who represents divinity in Hinduism. He has a battle against Ravana, a formidable demon king who, despite his great knowledge and power, was consumed by his own desires.
Yeah, absolutely. So Ramayana is very, very deep. Like even in India, when I was growing up, specifically Dashera was one of the very highlights of my year. And Ravan's effigy is always like burnt, and it's obviously a historical moment being represented in a current context, and also there is symbolical learnings also from that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So for our listeners, imagine the story that's ingrained in Indian culture as, say, the stories of King Arthur or Robin Hood are in Western cultures. So these tales have become part of the cultural DNA passed down through the generations, and they influence how the people view the world.
Yeah, absolutely. I think like Ramayana gives us many lessons at many levels, be it like at the duty level or moral ethics. It also gives us like idea about from Ravan's example, what are, let's say, some of our shortcomings, or call it inner demons, and how do we kind of what tools can we use to navigate them, right? Yeah.
Okay. And then the grand finale of this epic tale is Dusshera. It's a 10-day festival that culminates in a triumphant victory of Lord Rama over Ravana.
Yeah, absolutely. Lord Ram is not only representation of divinity in Hindu culture, and also at the same time, from a symbolic perspective, it's also Lord Ram is representing the good and Ravan is the evil. So how good can prevail over evil, light over darkness, and how being self-controlled is actually good over just being abrasive and just giving into our instincts and all the dark side of ourselves.
Mm. And yeah, this is where it gets interesting for us in the digital age. We're drawing a fascinating parallel between Ravana's downfall and the challenges we face today with technology and the constant barrage of digital temptations.
Yeah, totally. I think, like, I mean, for our folks who might not know who is Ravan, so Ravan actually is the person in Ramayana epic that, goes after his instincts and lusty desires, and in chase pursuit of being able to conquer those desires or overcome them, he goes so far that he's actually abducting Mother Sita, who is the wife of Lord Ram, and just doesn't leave any boundaries, or in general he doesn't have any boundaries that he's setting for himself. It clearly shows like how somebody who's having poor boundaries has a big downfall, and Ravan is actually killed by Lord Ram in the epic. And that's a lesson for all of us, that how if we don't set good boundaries, healthy boundaries for us in all aspects of life, we will have a problem, and it will really be disastrous. Yeah.
Yeah, true. Yeah, in the modern world, we face similar battles like our smartphones with their endless apps, notifications, content streams. They've all become like a modern day embodiment of Ravana, constantly tempting us with instant gratification.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's amazing to see like how our attention span has dropped with TikTok and other social media like reels. But I think pretty much like every reel or TikTok video is 30 seconds now, and it is so tempting to keep just scrolling endlessly, and look at people's videos. And there's, I mean, so many of these dating apps that have come in the market, which is also causing people to not really be connected deeply to another person. It's a very, very shallow connection. So yeah, I think that's something we are all living in this age, and that's a challenge that all of us are going through now. Yeah.
Very true. Yes. And yeah, just as Ravana's unchecked lust led to his own destruction, our uncontrolled digital desires can have some serious consequences, including dangers of pornography.
Yeah, pornography is such a dangerous problem. Also, in, previously, at least my thinking was that maybe there are teenagers who are, getting access to pornography when they are in their, undergrad school or high school or whatnot. And now with the explosion of, let's say, mobile devices and social media and whatnot, there is pretty much anybody has access to pornography right at the fingertips of their phone. And if somebody is not careful about what they are looking at, it can pretty much just go into their brains without them even knowing that they've crossed a boundary. And which is where pornography and access to obscene pictures, I mean, even some platforms like Netflix and all, there's so much TV shows, movies, all about obscenity and all of that, and it's being promoted very freely now. While we might think that those movies and all are okay, but inherently every single impression, every single exposure we are getting to these movies and TV shows and pornographic videos and whatnot, it is having some it is creating impressions on us which are not healthy, and repeated exposure to these kind of unhealthy things is always like in long run a problem. And it can set, like, I mean, we see relationships being impacted, um, where people are just not knowing how to have deep emotional intimacy anymore. And because they are so used to having instant gratification, that the hard work of putting in and building a good relationship is no longer, let's say, attractive anymore, right? And people are actually, because of that, there's anxiety, depression, there's sorts of relationships not being able to sustain because people just don't know how to work hard anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the constant exposure to this hypersexualized content can rewire our brains. It makes it harder to appreciate, engage in like real life, healthy relationships.
Yeah, and I think we definitely underestimate how much these things impact our subconscious behaviors. They say that every thought leads to a new habit, right? And that new habit leads to our character eventually being built. So when these thoughts where that we are taking in from these different, let's say unhealthy videos and whatnot, they are subconsciously programming our minds to behave in a way that is unhealthy. And I at least feel like part of the issues that we see in the society around rapes and dangerous murders and whatnot, a lot of the ideas come from the violent content that is out there, or the obscene content that is out there, and it starts really with getting an idea or a thought from outside, and then slowly the thought is materialized inside our minds. But repeated exposure to these thoughts, to these ideas, is fructifying or solidifying that idea in the mind, that people no longer being able to discern also where the boundaries are being crossed, right? And that's where epics like Ramayana are great, because they give us moral boundaries, they give us ethical boundaries to so that we can draw these boundaries ourselves. And boundaries are great. Actually, we might feel like, oh, freedom, I don't want to be restricted. But imagine, like, if let's say we had no rules on the road, how worse would our driving look like, and how many accidents would we get, right? So if we have no set of like boundaries, healthy boundaries that we establish for ourselves in life, then if everything is just okay based on what I like, then it might be very, very dangerous precedents. Because by default, let's say all of us would want to not go to the gym, all of us would want to eat unhealthy things, and that's not going to lead to a healthy lifestyle or healthy impact, right, in the long run.
Yeah, with social media, we got streaming platforms. They're constantly vying for our attention. It's becoming incredibly easy to get caught up in this world of fantasy, instant gratification, those kind of things.
Totally, yeah. And I think that's where we talked about pornography as a problem. Mobile addiction is another big problem, right? Like, um, I observed, like, people generally, even sitting on the dining table now, they're wanting to use their phones rather than talk to another other person on the sitting with them, right around them, right? So that's like feels like um, just a bit of a problem, that we don't want to just connect with people, right? Like, we just want to have this, I think what they call is dopamine impact, right? Or dopamine hit. That the dopamine hit is always so high that we keep just wanting more and more dopamine. And actually, the problem is, the more we are addicted to this digital medium, digital phones and everything, the dopamine, the more we need to connect with these things to get more and more dopamine, or equal amount of dopamine. So the exposure has to keep growing, which is very, very dangerous. It just doesn't stop. And our attention span also obviously goes down. I think there are people who feel very anxious without their phones now, which is extremely dangerous. So I think, like, um, we do need some counter things to this, right? So that's also something we should discuss here.
Yeah, yeah, definitely the dopamine. It's like we become tethered to these devices, sacrificing our time, our focus, and yeah, even sometimes our real life connections in the process. They can get destroyed.
Yeah, I think there's some jokes around, like, how in the same home now we need multiple televisions, just because everybody wants so personalized content. So in a way, the personalization is led to, there's no bonding pretty much, because everybody's just wanting their own content, their own phones. Everything is about, okay, what I like, and then there is no way to connect with other person in real life. So which just has a big disconnection, which is like, okay, there's no intimacy at all. Yeah.
Yeah, so like what is the solution here? It sounds complex. How do we conquer this Ravana within? Like what can we do to break free from our digital connection, our digital chains?
Yeah, I think, I mean, obviously, like, criticizing or saying about, okay, phones being unhealthy, that's one angle, definitely. And I mean, we are all part of the problem in one sense, that we are all in tech companies and working for tech companies. So we cannot criticize the technology, because we are all working to create new technologies. But I think like also at the same time, there is a space for using these technologies. At the same time, we actually can be intentional about how we do these things, right? Yeah.
Mm, okay. So yeah, let's try to talk a little more about a conscious effort that we could take to conquer this Ravana within. But how do we actually do that? What are you have some practical steps that we can apply in our daily lives?
Yeah, I think I had a few ideas. Maybe we can jam together on that, right? So one of them is like, for example, time limits, right? So I think like basically how the kings in general in the previous times, they would set a boundary for their kingdom, right? That no other person can come inside that boundary from outside the kingdom unless they have a permission. Similarly, if we could, for example, set time limits on how much social media are we consuming or how many, I mean, I think every these days, at least good thing is all the Android, iOS, or everybody has like limits to set on how much time you want to use an app. So that's one easy way to be just mindful about, okay, when am I using what and how much time do I'm spending? At least for me, I did something simple is like I just deleted Facebook and Instagram from my mobile phone. So I just have no access to them anymore. So, and TikTok, I'm not installed on my mobile phone. So there's no way pretty much can spend time on social media on my phone. And so that way, at least I've cut down on the need to be connected this much with the world every day and consume also, yeah, at the same time. Yes.
Okay, so time limits. What other strategies would you have?
Yeah, I think one other thing could be is also like we can be intentional about what we are trying to do. I like the Stephen Covey's habit too, which is begin with the end in mind. So even if you need to interact with somebody, uh, we can also be thoughtful about uh, like what is our goal? Why are we trying to, let's say, look at their profile, for example? I try to always question myself when I'm interacting with somebody. Is like, is there any end goal with this person in mind when I'm interacting or I'm trying to look at their profile? If there's no end goal, then why am I even looking at them? Because one problem I see also is like there is so much of FOMO, fear of missing out, when we look at other people's profile, digital profiles, and we feel like, oh, we are lacking in life, right? So that at least is one way is being intentional about what we are trying to do, right? Okay, so another idea to be mindful is to be aware about what content we are looking at and what impact it's having on our minds, right? Yeah.
Mhm.
What do you think?
So what do you mean, like being selective about shows that we watch, things that we read, social media accounts we follow, that kind of awareness?
Yeah, totally. I mean, we generally it's said, right? The people we associate with, they actually leave a big impression on how we enact in life. And similarly, the shows we watch or the things we actually read or the social media accounts or the people we follow, actually, I mean, this today in day and age, there is so much, you can say, polarization because of what people are watching. So it's very mindful, it's very thoughtful to have like some idea about what we are trying to do, intentional again. And you know, in Ramayana also there is many examples of where like somebody like Vibhishan actually, even though he's Ravan's brother, he's going on Lord Ram's side because he understands that Lord Ram is righteous, and that's the reason also he chooses right company, and the outcome is good because Lord Ram eventually conquers Ravan, right? And Vibhishan is made the king of Lanka. So like we being mindful of who we are hanging out with, what content we are feeding in, right? Like for example, what I've at least benefited from is like I try to watch like shows like Shark Tank or like let's say tennis match, which where I can learn something at the same time it's entertaining, but it's not giving me ideas which might pollute my mind unnecessarily or make me think in a negative way or leave a impression that I will have to work again to heal, right? Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's some good ideas. So maybe instead of mindlessly just consuming whatever shows up on our feeds, we should make a more conscious effort, try to figure out what we allow into our mental space.
Yeah, exactly. I think like the habit one Stephen Covey talks about, right? Yeah, like basically being proactive always, right? Like I think we don't want to assume that I watch anything and it has no impact on me. Actually, that's like in my at least mind, like it's a very naive approach to the world because every single interaction, every single thought we are absorbing, everything has impact on us. We believe it or not, it is impacting us. Yeah.
Great ideas. So yeah, context awareness, that makes sense. So what about some other ideas? Is this where we, should we get off the grid, live in a cabin in the woods? Do we need to detoxify ourselves from these internet context problems?
Yeah, I love the word detox you mentioned. So I think like obviously for both of us, we have been doing mantra meditation practice as a way to detox. Right now, I feel at least my first couple of hours in the morning after I'm fresh, I try to leave my phone aside so that I have some time to connect with my own self again. And that's, I feel like a very nice way to just daily have a detox. Ideally, also, I've tried this that, okay, going on a hike on a weekend, or if I'm going to the temple on a weekend, I'm leaving the phone aside for a few hours. So that way, my mind is not worried about things of the world in the things of or my world in the phone. Rather, I am focused and attentive on what I'm trying to do at that point, or a community service, or it could be like a musical show. I mean, it doesn't matter, but all of these are like venues where I'm trying to consciously disconnect from my phone. Now, what about you, Mark?
Wow. So like what are we supposed to do away from the phones? What are we doing? Like just twiddling our thumbs, reading the newspaper?
Yeah, I think like I mean it's I think different people have different engagements, right? Like I think for both of us we try mantra meditation practice. So we are where we are focusing on a mantra sound vibration, which is a holy sound vibration. I mean there's also spending time in a nature, reading books. I love reading books, or going to a temple or a community service. Even like I think as simple as like meeting a friend, going for a walk, or like learning music or like learning cooking, for example, or maybe trying to organize like a festival. I mean, anything. There's so many things that can nourish ourselves. We can pick and choose whatever we can do outside of like doing something in the phone. That is also a good way to just like have something other than our phones to operate with, right? And just spending time with real people. I mean, even like if you look at Ramayana, like we look at Lord Ram and Mother Sita, while when they were living a very busy life in Ayodhya when they're having to manage the kingdom, at some point when they are in the forest, they actually have a deep connection with each other, and that nourishes their marriage, right? So I think having deeper connection, spending time, talking face to face, nothing goes beyond that to make strong connections, yeah. And also cutting off from the digital, world, yeah.
Yeah, that sounds great. Like trying to disconnect, hit the reset buttons from our mind and our body, get a little relaxation going. So yeah, what's the final strategy for digital detox?
Yeah, I think we're talking about human connections, right? So I think, and Gary Chapman talks about in his book, right, quality time as one of the love languages. So I think people spending time with people, having meaningful conversations, or doing some activity together, which like, I mean, I think even just doing something simple as cooking together or going to a grocery store, those even as basic as that, or just going to walk outside together, I mean that itself is good because it connects us with nature, connects us with people again. I think even having like a social circle to meet, or creating a friend circle where we can do activities like be it as simple as playing tennis or just connecting on a walk. I think the many ways to do anything. I mean, even going to celebrate birthdays or any events. I think those are all great ways to again come back to some real reality rather than being in the digital media and digital world always. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So, like, I think, again, we need to put down our phone, actually talk to people. Like, it's super easy to get caught up in this world of, you know, feeds, scrolling, likes, comments, just forget the importance of real human interaction.
Totally. And Ramayana also gives the example, right, where when Lord Ram has to come back to Ayodhya after being 14 years in exile, Lord Ram actually sends Hanuman ji as a messenger to Bharat to first have a close connection just to gauge Bharat's body language and also connect with Bharat again, right? So you can see like that personal connection really made Bharat's in life of Bharat such a difference, and he was eagerly waiting for Lord Ram to come back. So that connection with Hanumanji helped him again wait for Lord Ram and like actually welcome him, right? So I think that nothing goes beyond like yeah deep connection, and I think that that's really I at least feel one of the good aspects of our lives is that we can have the ability to connect with people, yeah, and be able to form good relationships.
Yeah. It's a very powerful reminder from the Ramayana,
Totally.
still applicable in this digital age.
Yeah, and these festivals, Dashera, where Lord Ram conquers over Ravan, it's not only just historic, it's also symbolic in a way that Lord Ram is inspiring us to be able to connect and confront our, let's say, shortcomings and being able to become a better version of ourselves. While we cannot completely detach from the technology, we can use it in a healthy way. That way, we can have a good life. At the same time, we can use these technologies for enhancing and growing in our lives. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So there we have it. It's a few powerful strategies for conquering the Ravana within.
Right.
Dusshera, it's not just a colorful festival, it's a powerful reminder to confront our inner demons and strive for a better vision of ourselves, both in the digital world and beyond.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mark, for a wonderful conversation, and hopefully our audience also gets to learn something and get some insights from what we just discussing. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.